Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, April 21st. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. The superintendent of San Diego Union High School District is on administrative leave tonight following racial comments that she made during a diversity training session. Dr. Cheryl James Ward has apologized for the comments that have many people demanding her resignation after only a few months on the job. KPBS education reporter MG Perez has the story.
We'll now move on to our public comment section for non-agenda items.
The Wednesday night board meeting of the San Diego Union High School District was filled with parents, family, and former students of Asian descent who cannot believe what they heard the superintendent said.
I just want to say your words deeply hurt me, hurt my family, and also discredited my kids that what they did, what they worked so hard for.
The comments were made by Dr. Cheryl James Ward during a district diversity, equity, and inclusion training last week when she characterized and credited the success of the district's Chinese students to wealthy parents and extended Asian families able to support them, unlike other minority groups that can't, she said. The backlash came quickly, as did the superintendent's apology, which she repeated at last night's board meeting.
I do apologize to our Asian community. I apologize to the community at large, and I apologize to my students.
Dr. Ward has only been San Diego's superintendent since November. KPBS News has learned that she is now on administrative leave, pending a further investigation. She has apologized publicly twice now, with no further comment.
We're becoming a no place for hate district. Every school is a no place for hate school now.
In January, she did speak about her plans for revitalizing the district's efforts in diversity training and awareness, following a couple of incidents of hate graffiti sprayed on walls at San Diego Academy.
To ensure that our staff understands what it means to be an anti-bias educator, what it means to understand their own biases, and that the work is ongoing.
Not everyone is demanding a resignation. Molly Woods Drake is president of Encinitas for Equality.
I believe the approach is counsel, not cancel. And many of our students are already worried about saying the wrong thing, doing the wrong thing, hurting their classmates or their friends, but they want to learn.
Yusuf Miller is with the North County Equity and Justice Coalition.
If we have more inclusive thought, if we have more diverse thought and knowledge about different groups, this type of statements would have never come out.
My bottom line is we request Dr. Ward to resign.
The San Diego School Board will have the last word on the superintendent's future. MG Perez, KPBS News.
A 16-year-old boy is now charged with attempted murder and with committing a hate crime in an attack on a black girl in Lakeside. Today, he pleaded not guilty to the charges. The attack last weekend prompted a town hall where many voiced their frustrations that others weren't arrested and charged. They claim the members of the arrested teen's family stood by and not only watched the attack, but also hurled racial epithets. At that meeting, an official from the district attorney's office said they couldn't prosecute a parent for standing by. But today, DA Summer Stephan released a statement saying they will move forward with an investigation and will hold everyone responsible accountable. Civil rights attorney Dan Gilligan said this reversal is not surprising because district attorneys are politicians.
By not charging cases like this, they are sending a signal that, yeah, it might be illegal, but we're not going to charge it because it's too hard. We don't want to lose. And so that's why I think we see the reversal, is that, oh, okay, well, now the community is actually watching what we're saying and there's outrage. So let's send this opposite signal now.
And Gillian added that the DA charging others in this case is unlikely because it will be tough to prove. But he says that should not be the deciding factor in whether to prosecute. A new report is shining the spotlight on crime rates across the county. On one end, we are seeing historic low rates, and then on the other, an increase in violent crimes. KPBS reporter Kitty Alvarado dives into the numbers and the reasons behind them.
Sandag's newest report found that in 2021, violent crime in San Diego County jumped up 8%, and property crime went up 9%. Cynthia Burke is the Senior Director of Data Science with Sandag. She analyzed the numbers and said that overall, San Diego County still has one of the lowest crime rates when compared to other areas.
I think what we saw in 2020 was just really something that I hadn't seen since I've been doing this. Again, we go back to 1980. Historically, we're still at 42-year lows roughly, but we saw big jumps. One of the biggest one-year jumps that I've seen back from 2020 to 2021, both in violent crimes and property crimes.
Homicides were up 3%, rape was up 11%, and aggravated assault was up 12%. She says the pandemic gave them an opportunity to see what influences crime.
So I think that really just looking at opportunity to commit crime, people are back out. So we saw that with the violent crime.
Burke says the pandemic doesn't account for all of the increase in violent crime.
When you delve into some of the statistics, some of the changes that we saw were aggravated assaults are over the past 5 years or so are increasing on a more larger trend, and I would say the same for larcenies and motor vehicle theft.
Sergeant Jared Wilson, the San Diego Police Officers Union president, says the crime rate in the city is even higher.
We were up 10% in violent crime and up around 13% in property crime. So our numbers in the city of San Diego are higher than the region in general and probably dragging the region up.
He says that guns, many of them illegal, are a big factor.
The amount of guns we're seeing on the street is really unprecedented for this current generation of officers.
He says the study's finding that most of the homicides were a result of an argument is a real concern, especially since their response times are up dramatically.
How many of these arguments are just escalating to the point where a simple law enforcement intervention without an arrest, with just a de-escalation tactic, could have worked? And we're not making it to those calls in time.
Both agree the study is a good tool and, if used properly, can help create safer communities.
Even saying that we have fewer homicides now than we did in the late 1980s or 1990s, early 1990s, that one homicide is one homicide too many. So again, how can we work together to make San Diego a safe place for everybody equitably? How do we engage in those challenging conversations?
If we don't act on the data and we don't get back to community policing and preventing some of these crimes before they happen, the numbers are just going to continue to grow. And a double-digit increase in crime should be concerning for everyone.
Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
A crucial issue pitting management against labor is playing out in Sacramento tonight. California workplace regulators are poised to extend mandatory pay for workers affected by the coronavirus through the end of the year and not just September as was currently planned. A Cal OSHA board is debating the issue right now. Business groups say the dual benefits are redundant and confusing, while employee advocates say they're essential to allowing sick workers to stay home. The debate comes as the Omicron variant becomes dominant in California. San Diego City Council members today reviewed 5 competing proposals to redevelop the sports arena property in the Midway District. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says city staffers wanted to thin out the competition.
The arena property spans almost 50 acres in a blighted neighborhood that's been begging for investment. All 5 redevelopment plans include a mix of both affordable and market-rate housing, commercial space, parks, and an entertainment venue. But 2 of the proposals seek to renovate the existing arena, while the rest would replace it from scratch. Those 2 proposals were the ones city staffers wanted to eliminate. But many residents said they want more information before anyone is cut.
Removing any one of the options from the table today is short-sighted. And our group looks forward to seeing how the city's responses to our comments today help inform the wider conversation. and yield a project that really embraces the adopted community plan and agrees with the goals of the plans for the community.
The City Council's Land Use and Housing Committee agreed with those comments and voted to keep all 5 proposals in the running.
I do not want to rush and miss an opportunity to pick the right project for this site. We have a recent history under the prior mayoral administration of rushing through real estate deals at the expense of proper due diligence and full and transparent analysis.
There's a layer of uncertainty overshadowing the entire process. State housing officials want to ensure the city prioritizes affordable housing in their final plan. And none of the redevelopment plans will be feasible unless the city is able to raise the 30-foot height limit in Midway. A voter-approved ballot measure to do just that is held up in court. The full City Council will weigh in on the proposals in the coming months. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
The San Onofre Nuclear Generating Station, also known as SONGS, was toured today by Representative Mike Levin and Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm. In February, Levin reintroduced his Spent Fuel Prioritization Act to move spent fuels away from nuclear sites that have been decommissioned. Granholm says the Biden administration is looking to find permanent storage for that spent fuel and says part of the solution is communities volunteering to store it in unused space.
We believe that nuclear must be a piece of the clean energy solution, but we also believe we have to address this issue in particular. We know how to store nuclear waste safely. The question is where we do it.
San Onofre has 123 spent fuel canisters that are stored off-site in sealed steel canisters that are also reinforced with concrete. President Joe Biden says the U.S. will step up again when it comes to sending military assistance to Ukraine. He also plans to ban Russian-affiliated ships from American ports in an effort to further isolate Moscow from the global economy. More now from reporter Isabel Rosales.
New satellite images show apparent mass graves outside the besieged city of Mariupol. The city is ground zero. The Azovstal steel plant stands as Mariupol's last line of defense. Russian President Vladimir Putin has scrapped plans to storm the plant, ordering soldiers to instead encircle it.
There will be nobody left in this area. There will be dead, all the children. I'm not talking about the soldiers, but the civilians will be eliminated.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky warns his troops do not have enough serious and heavy weapons to defeat the Russians there. The U.S. is responding. President Biden unveiling his latest presidential drawdown. Any more money would need congressional approval.
And we're in a critical window now of time where they're going to set the stage for the next phase of this war.
The Defense Department now set to pull weapons and equipment like howitzers, ammo, and drones from U.S. inventories to send to Ukraine.
Putin has failed to achieve his grand ambitions on the battlefield. After weeks of shelling Kyiv, Kyiv still stands.
In a move to further isolate Moscow, Russian-affiliated ships now banned from American ports. In Mariupol, the help can't come soon enough. Ukrainian soldiers remaining defiant, resisting Russian attacks, and ignoring their calls to surrender. In Washington, Isabel Rosales, KPBS News.
Giving back to those who have given so much. Today, Wounded Warrior volunteers had a day of service at a housing facility for veterans in Oceanside. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne was there.
One generation of service members giving back to another. That was the message of Thursday's Day of Service at Interfaith's Veteran Transitional Housing in Oceanside.
We decided to come out and do some projects, redoing their outdoors, their living spaces, just to kind of help them feel more at home.
Adriana Macias is with the Wounded Warrior Battalion. The volunteers helping get the work done.
It also allows our recovering service members to get back into the community. Most of them will retire out from Wounded Warrior Battalion, so it's incredibly important for us to get them reintegrated back into the community and help them find a new purpose.
Tatiana Dodson is one of the volunteers. 1 year into her service with the Marine Corps, she got diagnosed with an unknown condition that made her unfit for active duty. She's now recovering with the Wounded Warrior Battalion.
It definitely does help to feel like I'm still in the fight.
even though I'm not doing my regular MOS within the Marine Corps, I can do things like that and still feel proud about myself and being in the Marine Corps still and feel like I'm actually doing something.
Volunteers got tools in their hands and got to work on the courtyard. Curtis Winfrey is the program manager for Interfaith's 64-bed veteran housing facility.
Just coming out, like I said, to beautify the place. We want them to feel comfortable, not just a transition, but, it's important to us that they transition the right way. In other words, show them that we really care.
It's working out great.
Brian Brown is a resident at the Veterans Transitional Housing.
I've been here for a year, actually, March. Going through contractor school. Totally transforming my life, my perception.
He was living in his car for 9 months and coping with alcohol before entering Interfaith's program.
Just grateful. Just grateful to be a part of something that's totally focused on increasing the quality of people's lives. We come together here and we show up here not so well.
Brown hopes to pass his contractor's test in a couple of months. He says events like today inspire him to help service members struggling with life get back up again.
We're good. There you go.
Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Mortgage rates are rising, but that doesn't appear to be cooling off San Diego County's hot housing market. According to CoreLogic and DQ News, the median home price hit a new record high in March, $805,000. Prices were up nearly 19% in a year. Real estate analysts and agents say buyers rushed to get into properties before mortgage rates climbed higher. According to Freddie Mac, the average rate for a 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is now 5.11%. And that is the highest rate in more than a decade. California has some of the worst air quality in the United States. The American Lung Association's annual State of the Air report shows that 4 in 10 Americans live in a county impacted by unhealthy air. But in California, it's 9 in 10 people. The transportation and fossil fuel sectors are still the biggest polluters, along with particulate pollution from wildfires. Communities of color and economically disadvantaged areas suffer the most.
In a neighborhood near the port of San Diego, and you're dealing with thousands of truck trips, ships, trains, all of those sources of pollution, and then you have wildfire smoke layered on top of that, that's just adding insult to injury.
The American Lung Association says people need to seriously consider what they can do in their own lives to reduce their carbon footprint. And people also need to pressure lawmakers to do more to address climate change. And Earth Day is tomorrow. KPBS reporter John Carroll takes us to an event that's all about the earth and what grows out of it.
When you think of a garden, what comes to mind? For many of us, it's something like this, the Rose Garden at Balboa Park, resplendent in its floral beauty. This kind of garden is not so much about the eyes, more about the stomach, about nutrition. These are called tiny gardens. It's a way to get people started growing their own food. This is the second year Bayside Community Center in Linda Vista has provided tiny gardens to the community. It starts with students from High Tech High in Claremont shoveling soil into bags.
We spent a lot of time shoveling dirt into these felt bags.
But for Hope Shaw and her friends, it was all totally worth it.
Wanting to help people who are without access to healthy food because it is a basic human need, a basic human right, and no one should be without it.
Put it in the back seat of the trunk. Right here is good?
County Board of Supervisors Chair Nathan Fletcher originally partnered with Bayside last year as a way to get food and the means to grow it to people during the pandemic.
If you can locally grow, you're going to get access to fresh produce and vegetables. You're also going to have a positive environmental impact of not trucking things across the country, across the world. And it's not as hard as it seems.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Along with the soil, everyone here got a tomato and cilantro plant, a drip tray, tomato cage, and watering can. And they're provided instructions on how to make their garden grow. But the sum total of what folks are getting here is so much more than the parts.
One of the moms here told me her kids would never eat vegetables until they grew them themselves. And now they eat them all the time and they tell all their friends about it.
Tiny Gardens, a name that really only makes sense at the start, for these gardens will grow. and turn into something big, something fun, something that is life-sustaining for people and the planet. John Carroll, KPBS News.
Let's talk our weather headlines as we take it into the evening hours. Showers will pick up, clouds will increase as well. We also will see some winds picking up, especially into the higher elevations across the mountains, and it will be cooler into the weekend. But by Sunday and Monday, we will start to see a warming trend once again, and then temperatures will go the other direction. We'll look at above average trends. All right, so we are talking about areas to the east of Big Bear Lake and also just to the east of Oceanside as well, into those higher elevations, that we do have wind advisories, and that will last until Friday afternoon. You could have some gusts 40 to 50 miles per hour. So keep that in mind. It could be breezy, especially across the mountains, but more interior and especially across the inland areas, that's where you'll start to pick up some of the rainfall. We'll take any rain that we can get. We're looking at a 1/10 to possibly a 1/4 of an inch as we go on throughout the evening hours and then even into tomorrow as well. Still holding on to some showers across Oceanside, San Diego as well. Chula Vista, you're looking at some showers with temperatures into the lower 60s. Mid-60s for El Cajon, and then Ramona 59 degrees. Borrego Springs getting up to the 70s with plenty of sunshine. So wet stretch continues into Friday, pushing south, and then just shy of San Diego. We'll wrap things up pretty quickly. If you look at Futurecast, this goes throughout your Friday. Clouds will clear out by the time we head into the afternoon. So you'll start your morning with the showers. You'll wrap things up with some clearing conditions. Might see a little bit of some of that onshore flow creating some cloudy skies into the evening hours, but overall it should be on the drier side of things. Around the coast, we'll see the shower too, as I mentioned, but here's that warming trend. 80s by Monday, and everyone should feel the warming trend, especially inland. 91 degrees by the time we hit your Monday. Across the higher elevations into the mountains, you'll see some drier conditions, and also the winds will subside, especially as we head over the weekend, and temperatures will be rising too. And across the desert, you're looking at temperatures getting into the 90s by Monday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Michelle Rotella.
Tonight, La Jolla Playhouse returns to a live, in-person, without walls or WOW Festival. KPBS Arts reporter Beth Accomando brings us a preview.
I can, if you want, set up in the box.
Sometimes the most liberating thing for artists is to put constraints on them.
I am inside of the box, which is my set. This is a 2 by 3 by 3 little box, and this is where I do the entire 90-minute show.
Dominique Salerno put constraints on herself in order to create a tiny site-specific stage that she could take with her anywhere.
Like, I wanted to defy limitations by throwing them right into my creative space. So for me, this has just been, playing around in this little space has been just a godsend for my creativity and my imagination.
Salerno will be presenting the aptly titled The Box Show at this year's Without Walls or WOW Festival.
The show is about imagination, exploration, and joy, and really pushing yourself to see the dark and the light that can come out of real creativity.
Creativity loves constraints. When you don't have everything at your fingertips, there becomes a certain necessity to use what's readily available, or in the case of site responsive work, to have the ability to respond and think on your feet and creatively solve problems, which I feel like is absolutely part of any artistic process.
Over at Animal Cracker Conspiracy, Bridget Roundtree and Ian Gunn were still thinking on their feet and problem-solving for their WOW show, Transmythical. The inventive puppeteers were breathing life into creatures both small and large.
We're going to have stilt puppeteers on 4 legs. So they're going to be 4-legged animals, winged, with hybrid animal heads and horns, hooves, tails, and they'll be in the mix.
There will also be puppeteers operating giant undersea creatures rigged to backpacks,
which I think has the ultimate wow factor, just because you can see it from so far away, and you don't see it every day.
The show will be a procession, says Gunn.
Through sound and movement, we're going to invite the audience to join us for a short walk and a celebratory moment. By calling it Transmythical, the idea is that we're going to draw a bridge across as many mythologies as possible and try to create something new.
Creating something new is also at the heart of the Frontera Project, an interactive bilingual experience performed by Mexican and U.S. artists. It explores life in our border region, but in a way that breaks the boundaries of traditional theater.
There's no chance for sit down and relax and be hoping that there will be like a curtain or that a light that will protect you and or direct the sight of the viewer of the audience.
And then the audience is asked to engage with the show.
When the audience come to the stage, the audience participate riding in the floor of the stage, and they complete the experience. I think it's just very important because the audience is it's an important part of the show.
And it's important for audiences to bring an open mind and the imagination to fill in the blanks at WOW.
I think festivals like these are really freeing because it reminds us that theater can be anywhere, anything, with any people gathering in a room or in a space or in a field.
Or in a box that allows you to defy expectations by bringing your own walls to wow an audience at La Jolla Playhouse's Without Walls Festival.
You know, you never know what you're going to find inside of these little compartments.
Beth Accomando, KPBS News.
And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating and air, restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.